Welcome back, you freak. Today we're back talking about disturbing films, and I really challenged myself because I am finally talking about some films that I have been putting off for a long time, and many of these are for different reasons. We'll get to it. One that you guys have been asking me to watch nonstop, and I have to admit my wrongs today. I was so wrong about this film. So I'm very excited to get into it. I just want to remind everyone, this is disturbing content. So I am not joking when I say that these are disturbing films. This is going to have intense themes. If you're not into that, this is not for you. If you're a freak and you like disturbing films, well, I see you. This video is for you, so make sure to hit the thumbs up if you want to support my channel, and make sure you're subscribed because I love talking about disturbing movies. And you'll want to wait till the end because there is a movie on this list that I regret watching, and I have a good reason why. Let's start with a film I did start watching maybe 3 or 4 times now, but I never got further than 15 minutes into because I kind of understood where this was going. I had heard a lot about this film, and it was kind of a slaps laptop shut, worries about it another day situation. Have you ever had one of those films? Films that you just feel like you can't bear that day? Well, Dead Man's Shoes was that for me, and I finally checked it out. This film is directed by Shane Meadows, who went on to direct This Is England. It has a very bleak, I wouldn't say similar, but sister-like setting. Dead Man's Shoes is a horrific, violent story of revenge. I love going into films blind, but this film really gets you from the start. It is very straightforward, and it doesn't take long to figure out what's going on. The movie is about Richard, a soldier who returns to his small hometown to avenge his brother and the men who inflicted horrific torture on him. The acts of revenge in this film are depicted in merciless and very horrifically violent ways. It's both very confronting and convincing for a very low budget film, and these scenes are paired with a very dramatic soundtrack. Sometimes the background sound is theatrical. Other times I felt it to be kind of whimsical. It's a stark contrast to what you're seeing on screen, which kind of works perfectly because the film wants you to feel horrified, not for the perpetrators, but of course to take in what this really means to the man committing these crimes. It really shows how easy it is for Richard to inflict this level of violence on this gang, and it's not long before you realize why. The flashbacks of this film are very stylized in black and white, so it leaves no room for interpretation. Again, very straightforward revenge style movie. And the story does focus on Richard's brother being taken advantage of because of his intellectual disability, which is one of the reasons that deterred me from watching the movie. I just obviously don't want to see this level of crime on anyone, but extremely vulnerable people is really hard to watch. I tried to have a look down the rabbit hole and find out why they chose this for his character. If we're going to be completely transparent, and I want to be on this channel, I think that it seemed like a plot device showing someone who is in a vulnerable state, which we do see in a lot of revenge films, them being taken advantage of. But unfortunately, the brother, we don't get to learn much more about him outside of this, only the endearing relationship he had with his brother. So I don't know how I feel about that, especially since the film was really shot quick, written quick. I don't feel like his character is fully explored. The film was as horrific as I expected, but it is well done. I would say a lot of it is dated in terms of dialogue, but again, in this group setting and also showing the location, it makes sense. Some of the dialogue that is used back and forth, although dated, probably very accurate, and like I said, a lot of it is improvised, so it's coming off the top of their heads as the characters that they're playing. I will say, as straightforward as this film was, I was not expecting the end, how the stories come together with the flashbacks and in the present revenge story. The connection really threw me. Anything could have happened in this film that would have left me feeling destroyed. But the way it is revealed is a very intense scene. This is a raw and brutal story of revenge, and I have to say, Paddy Considine, who helped write the film and stars as Richard, gives a harrowing performance as someone who was destroyed by the events. Interesting enough, Paddy, he's coming back up. This is not the last time we'll be talking about Paddy today. And that was pure coincidence. I literally took the films that I was avoiding and sat down and watched them for this video. I did not cherry pick. I really made myself sit through it. A lot of you have recommended this film to me, and I really don't know why I shelved it for so long. It's not like it was overly disturbing compared to some of the other works I've watched, but it is a pretty horrific ride. If you're into revenge films, you probably should add this one to the list. if you like the disturbing ones. But next, I feel like I'm going to lose some of you guys here, and please stick with me because I'm here to watch these films if you don't want to watch them. This next film I had stayed away from because of its subject of violence, which I do feel strikes a chord with the horror community in particular. And this is Tyrannosaur. If you haven't heard of this film, this poster just constantly comes up for me when I look up disturbing movies. But I was warned because of the violence against animals in it that it is a really hard watch. And I'm going to warn you, it happens instantly within the first, I want to say minute. There is a horrific scene. It is more so heard than shown, but all of that aside, and regardless of how I feel about that, Tyrannosaur does something really important with this. Instead of using it as a plot device, it becomes a metaphor for the film itself. So it is a pivotal part of the story, and it's not just there as a plot device to get emotion out of the viewer. Instead, it works to shock us and then change our perception as the film goes on. And somehow this all wraps up very poetically. So this movie is without a doubt a fantastic piece of cinema, although of course hard to watch. It's a deeply thought-provoking film about self-preservation in a world of pure cruelty and how that cycle continues. The movie is directed and written by award-winning actor Paddy Considine, who won an award for outstanding debut film for this at the BAFTAs in 2012. So this was his first feature directed by him, and my God, what a hard-hitting film. It's actually based on his short film Dog Altogether. The movie stars Peter Mulligan and Olivia Colman, and Olivia Colman is absolutely startling in this film, harrowing, but she is great in everything she does, so that's what made me more so interested to actually push through and watch this movie. The movie is about Joseph, a man who deals with anger issues, and he feels plagued by his situation in life, which is really a result of his own self-destruction. And immediately when the film opens up, as I said, we see him take his pet's life out of anger. Now he's on a rampage and he's spiraling out of control. And one day he escapes into a Christian charity shop where he meets Hannah, a woman who he begins to taunt. Although she extends him a lot of kindness he hasn't seen in the world for a very long time. Joseph thinks that Hannah lives in a bubble created by her own faith, but he couldn't be further from the truth, and that's where our story truly begins. This movie is bleak, dark, and really moving, but this also ties back into the name of the film because it's about how we treat and taunt people, even loyal creatures like dogs, expecting them not to break or snap. Because the movie's violence extends beyond animals onto people and sexual abuse, as well as domestic abuse. Its landscape is a rough, small pocket in Leeds that's grim, violent, and dangerous. The way that this film lives inside a vacuum of people imprisoned by their own circumstances as the only environment they've ever known is utterly devastating. It's really a credit to the filmmaking that it shows like this is the only answer, this is the only way to live, and these characters can't escape it. You feel stuck inside of this claustrophobic world when you're watching the movie. And of course, as I said, Olivia Colman is magnetic in this role. The breadcrumbing in the writing of her character is also perfection. I feel like many films I have seen with this level of abuse, I mean, I was just talking about Dead Man's Shoes, only show a one-dimensional character or figure at times, but as the film goes on, her character Hannah really challenges this idea. Honestly, from jump, I just didn't know if I could get on board with this film and if it would work on me. I felt like emotionally I wanted to check out as soon as I saw that scene. When I see things like that, I remind myself it is a film, and at the end of the day, we're talking about fiction here. I want to make that very obvious. But with Joseph's violent beginnings, it forces the audience to still follow someone after a horrific act. And as I always say, you've probably heard this a lot from me, disturbing film is a way to push the boundaries and communicate an idea in a way that film hasn't before. And I feel like this movie is such an emotional, guttural expression about humanity and the dark sides of everybody. I understand why a lot of you guys won't watch it. If you have seen it, let me know what you thought about it down below. I would love to hear. It's a hard watch, but I was definitely touched by it and I won't forget it. And remember, it is only fiction, thank God. But to kind of lighten the mood slightly, this is a disturbing list. I warned you guys, I warned you. Sorry to get so bleak, but this next film, I can't tell you how many of you have told me to watch this throughout the years. It's called Fat Girl. It is a French film. And if I had a penny for every time someone told me to watch this film and I said, not today, I would have maybe like $10. But also, if I had a penny for every time you told me to watch the film and I didn't, and now I regret it, I'd probably still have $10. because this film wasn't anything like the title suggests. I thought it was going to be more like Piggy, if you've seen that film. Great film, by the way, but I just didn't want to put myself through that so soon again. But I actually really enjoyed this movie. The film follows two very young French sisters who are on a holiday with their family when they meet an older Italian boy. Now, the film explores their own opinions on sexuality as they are exposed to pressure and sibling rivalry. But honestly, I never could have picked how this film ended and what was actually disturbing about it. The film does deal with some intense underage sex scenes and sexual content, and it is certainly taboo, but it is very conversational, and so I was wondering why it was suggested so much to me until the last scene, or really the last act. I promise you will never see where this film is going, and it's so bizarre in a very unsatisfying but kind of gotcha way that I really enjoyed it. The film is really offbeat and unique, but without a doubt, the best part of this film is Anaïs Roubouf, who plays Anaïs in the film, her own name. She is so bizarre and offbeat and just magic. If you like uncomfortable, awkward coming of age, this film, chef's kiss, French chef kiss. Her character feels so real and so vulnerable, just like the awkward 13-year-old experience. And she was 13 at the time. Her real and honest portrayal of the character is actually insane, especially when you realize she was not a trained actor at all. I can't imagine doing this so honestly in front of a camera. This was my favorite scene. I was laughing the entire time, and we will get to me laughing about this, but she is playing this scene and she has to be in Aquarius, I'm telling you, where she is swimming in this pool and she's kissing two different items. One's like a pool ladder. It doesn't matter, but she's going back and forth and she's having this dialogue between them, talking about her relationship with them and how the other shouldn't be jealous of the other, and the way she's playing out how she feels about her sexuality, but while talking to these items in a pool, and how she's having a affair with the pool ladder. It is like what Pen 15 does. If you've ever seen Pen 15, too real, too accurate, very 8th grade as well. The crazy thing about this is Anaïs was 13 years old when she was spotted at a McDonald's by the director. She then went and read for the casting director, who didn't quite understand her style, and it didn't go well. But afterwards, the director said, we need to give her another shot. She ended up reading with her and they read with another girl. And that's when she realized that she wasn't just reading the dialogue on the page, but she actually felt it as well. And she immediately got the star role in this movie. No acting experience. I'm always floored by child actors and how they can understand their craft without a frontal lobe. But this was just something different. And she has only done one other role, I believe, in TV, nothing since. In saying all of this, it is a very uncomfortable watch. Because it is a French film, they have a very different approach to all of the adult activity, and it is an adult activity in this. They're underage. The girl who plays her older sister was 16 at the time, but they are very casual towards the nudity, and I feel like it is quite an exposed movie, if you get what I'm saying. A lot of graphic detail, or just a lot of vulnerable moments, very long scenes, completely naked. And this casual attitude is also used to talk about Anaïs's body, which of course becomes the title of the film, which is really not necessary. This film really didn't have that much to do with that, or I didn't view it in that same lens. It is put into some of the dialogue just because of the sister rivalry, but I don't think it should have been the core focus of this movie. It's definitely not the most interesting part. But it's the film's ending that really startled me, and I can understand why after reflection, because of the setup. I just wasn't looking at those moments for what poetically they were trying to do. Especially the last shot or the last line of dialogue. It is very jarring. But the director, Catherine Breillat, is known for her provocative films such as Sex is Comedy, Perfect Love, Romance, Virgin, and the remake Last Summer, which we talked about not too long ago on this channel. And she said in an interview not too long ago that she continues to return to, quote, young girls as the central figure in cinema and the ongoing antagonism between romanticism and desire. There's always a kitsch, humorous aspect to the young girl, and I think that Fat Girl is very funny. Violent, yes, but funny. I suppose that desire, guilt, romance, and anti-romance, which are the same thing, are my constant subjects. After reading that, I didn't feel too bad for laughing because the film is meant to be funny in an awkward, uncomfortable way, but also very relatable, which again is things I found out of 8th grade and Pen 15. If you haven't seen those, very great, awkward, uncomfortable pieces of media that aren't disturbing at all. So I feel like at least I really felt the filmmaker's intent with this one. The end is quite disturbing, and again, a lot of the underage activity is very uncomfortable. I found myself wanting to multitask while watching this one. It's just a lot. I don't want to see that on my screen, but I understand what it was trying to do. And it was also very stranger danger when you're watching this young girl have these conversations with this man. You just want to stop it, and it's really hard to watch. It's very uncomfortable, but I promise you won't know what's coming, and it is worth it for the lead's role. The way that she does this on screen is magical, and I'm so sad that she hasn't done anything since. I think some of you guys will hate the ending of this film, but I think it will be a surprise to everybody. If you do watch it, please come back and let me know what you thought. Okay, the last one was one a couple of you have asked me to watch, and every time I see this poster, I'm like, I can't do it. So this is Feed Me, and this poster kind of reminded me of Bite, if you've seen Bite. I didn't watch that too long ago, so I'm like, do I need to do a Feed Me as well? I also have just seen Feed, which is an Australian underground feeder indie film. So I don't know, I just felt like this film doesn't get good ratings. I don't know how I feel, and so I challenged myself to sit through it, and honestly, this is the only one I regret. It's based on the true case of Armin Meiwes. This is the man in 2001 who had an agreement with another man that they were going to eat his member together, but he instead took his life and ate a large part of his flesh. Crazy story, absolutely insane story, but this film really takes the inspired by to a whole new level, because anything that is interesting and dark and worth discussing, I don't know, I mean, that's up to your interpretation and your view, whatever, you know. The critics are out on that one. But it takes the inspired by credit, chucks it on the front, here we go, and then is so lightly inspired by the interesting and dark and disgusting true case that it doesn't follow anything other than voluntary cannibalism. Nothing in this story is akin to the story it's inspired by. The true story started on an online forum in an underground community, but this one takes place when the lead loses his wife to an eating disorder, and then at her funeral, this random guy shows up, this really kooky guy shows up and says, hey, you know what would be the best thing for your wife's memory? If you let me eat you. And he says, sure. No, he takes some convincing, maybe a day, calls him back and he says, I'm in. And it becomes this back and forth between the voluntary meat and the killer and their relationship back and forth, and then a lot of side quests. It becomes nothing to do with why this fascination has started, the psychological impact that this relationship could have on each other, or the reason and the whys to how we got to this point, the underground society in where this stuff does happen and is talked about, and how people get to this place that is something that they want to do. Nothing that is actually interesting and dark and worth exploring. All of the fascinating elements of this case are completely, I wouldn't say dumbed down, but destroyed, and it's replaced with this goofy acting. And this film is a comedy, by the way. Did I not mention that? This film is framed as a comedy, and this guy is voluntarily offering himself up, and the conflict in the story comes when he realizes that maybe the guy who showed up to his wife's funeral and asked to, eat him to death, maybe he's not all there, and maybe he's a little bit unhinged, and that becomes the arc. This film is so goofy, and if you want to look up the crime, it is so crazy what the true story is, and to deviate that far while saying that you're inspired by feels like a crime itself. It really does. I was so saddened by this. I know that makes me sound sick, but this story is just really interesting. And I felt like if they were to do it in a serious setting and there was enough facts and fascinating underground things happening, that it's a story that's just waiting to be explored. And instead they deviate, and it is violent, it is grimy, it has the gore, but it does not deliver in any impactful way. They add in some goofy music and some one-line zingers, and it comes across almost like a parody. Somehow the story about one of the darkest, unique crimes is a shallow slapstick and doesn't really touch on the compulsion or crime at all. I honestly really hope that there is another film in the works out there about the dark underbelly of this community. I would be interested in watching that. Again, I'm sick, so are you, and that's why you're watching this. Do not at me. Do not at me. If you have heard of a film that covers that case closer to the original, please let me know down below, or if there's any documentaries. This direction did not work for me at all. Again, this is the only film I regret watching on this list, but hey, it's done and dusted, and now when you guys ask me to watch it, at least I have. If you do like this film, this was no hate to you. I'm just giving my honest opinion, and I love the recommendations. Keep them coming. I want to keep challenging myself and watch as many of these films as possible. So I do want to say a huge thank you to anyone who has ever recommended me a movie. If I like it or hate it is besides the point. I'm here for the disturbing cinema that pushes boundaries. And I guess all of these technically did. Thank you so much for checking out this video. If you did like it, again, I would really appreciate sharing it with any other sicko friends you have. And to commemorate, I guess, the last film in this video, drop a dinner plate or a knife and fork down below in the comments so I know you've seen it this far. Let's confuse everyone. I love when we do this. We always get such funny comments of people who have no idea what's going on. So keep it alive, guys. Keep the confusion alive. This is a little sicko club and you're invited. If you didn't know, I am on Twitch 3 times a week streaming horror games. If you like the free-flowing dialogue, I promise I have plenty over there. I'm playing Silent Hill F at the moment, so I'd love to have you guys come join. And I did check out recently what I think is probably one of the most horny films I've seen in a long time for horror, if you want to check out this review. And of course, if you want to hear me ramble about everything I watched last month, here is my monthly wrap-up for maybe the biggest month of watching films I've ever had. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll talk to you all very soon. Stay safe and stay spooky. Bye, friends.